Okay, so today I'm going to begin the chapter that is chemical thermodynamics, and this is chapter 6 from your chemistry syllabus. And this comes under the unit which is called physical chemistry. Okay, in physical chemistry, this is the sixth chapter. Okay, now my question is, what do you mean by thermodynamics? Can anybody tell me? What do you mean by thermodynamics? What is thermodynamics? What concept do you have about thermodynamics? Because this word is used in physics also. What is the meaning of the word thermodynamics? Thermodynamics.
Heat
So
means heat.
to it.
Yeah, yes, very good. Anything which is connected with heat and movement of heat, anything which is connected, any study, it is a branch of science.
Yes.
Basically, it is,
Calorimetry.
yeah, calorimetry, we can call it to be a part of thermodynamics also, but over here, any branch of science which is dealing the study of the movement of heat energy, it comes under this branch which is called chemical, what do you call, thermodynamics. Now this thermodynamics chapter, no, it will cover all types of energy changes, whether it is physical changes or chemical changes. Okay, we have to remember that. Now, you must note that it is not only concerned with the transformation of heat into work or work into heat, as the name implies, but also it tells us it involves all kind of interconversions of one form of energy into the other form. So we can say in a summarized manner that thermodynamics can be defined as a branch of science which deals with basically the study of different forms of energy, the study of the different forms of energy and the quantitative relationship between them. So, how to relate different forms of energy quantitatively, amount of energy. Okay, so that is called thermodynamics. Now, basically in chemistry over here, we have to learn in detail about chemical thermodynamics. Now, this chemical thermodynamics it deals with the energy changes which is happening, which is participating in chemical transformations. Whenever there are chemical changes happening, whether the change is physical change or a chemical change, so all the energy changes involved are studied under this branch of science which is called chemical thermodynamics. Now remember that the familiar forms of energy involved in chemical changes, they are heat, we know them, light is there, mechanical energy is there, even electrical energy can be considered. Thus, we can say chemical thermodynamics deals mainly with the what you call study of these forms of energy. And there, the word quantitative has to be remembered, and their quantitative relationship between them, particularly for any possible chemical systems. Now, remember in this chapter, primarily we have to keep in mind three simple and empirical derived laws of nature. Popularly, as laws of thermodynamics, we will be talking about the first law of thermodynamics, which deals with the conservation of energy, while basically the second law it prevents the transfer of heat from a body at lower temperature to a body at higher temperature, because we know when we pour water, water flows from a higher level to a lower level. Similarly, when there is heat transfer always happens from a hotter body to a colder body. It never transfers from a colder body to a hotter body. So that is governed by the second law. Moreover, if you talk about, there is one more law which is called the third law of thermodynamics, which gives importance to the fact that molecules in a system become perfectly motionless. So, if you bring any system and if you bring the temperature of the system to absolute zero, all the molecules become stationary. They stop moving. So, here in this chapter, we'll be learning about thermodynamic approach involving the derivation of various useful relations between the experimentally observed properties of a system. So the properties of a system we'll be learning in detail in this chapter, and then we'll be moving and learning about some basic concepts in this chapter as well. Now, to move further in this chapter, let us understand, let us get to know a gist about what is the importance of thermodynamics. Why in chemistry we feel the importance of learning this chapter thermodynamics. The first point over, if you see on your screen, with this thermodynamics, it is useful to predict. You can predict whether any chemical reaction can occur under specific conditions or not. There are some chemical reactions which do not need any specific conditions, but there are most of the chemical reactions they need specific conditions like maybe temperature or pressure. So, with the knowledge of this chapter thermodynamics, we can predict whether the reaction will proceed in the forward direction or not. So, that is the first importance. Then, thermodynamics is also used to predict the extent, how far the chemical reaction can proceed before attaining an equilibrium, before equilibrium position is attained. Now, the next importance is it is used to derive important laws like laws of equilibrium, laws of mass action. We have learned in the chapter law of mass action, law of chemical equilibrium. All those laws can be derived by the knowledge and the concept of this chapter. Okay, thermodynamics. Then moving further to the next slide, what is the scope of thermodynamics? Here, please keep in mind, thermodynamics, it is limited to macroscopic properties of matter. It is confined, that is, properties of large number of particles of systems. So, it is limited to not microscopic, it is macroscopic properties of matter. That is, what is macroscopic properties of matter? Properties of large number of particles of the system. So, if there are large number of particles in the system, if you what do you call corner all the properties, so these properties are called macroscopic properties, and then this thermodynamics is confined to the study about the macroscopic properties of matter. Next scope is, it considers, this is very important, this is very important scope. Thermodynamics, it considers only the initial and the final stages of the system, okay, and not the mechanism of the process. It is not interested. While learning the chapter thermodynamics, keep in mind always the initial state and the final state. It is a state function. The study of this chapter is a state function dependent on the state, the initial state and the final state. No path, there is no path. Path is not important in this chapter. Then going further to chemical thermodynamics, just a slight understanding of some important words over here. In this chapter, we'll be coming across words like entropy. Look at this word entropy. Entropy means a degree of disorder or randomness of a system. Entropy means degree of disorder or randomness of a system. So in this chapter, we'll be learning about entropy. Keep in mind that the entropy of the universe is always increasing. The entropy of the universe is always increasing, which means the disorder of the universe is always increasing. It is not decreasing. Then we'll be learning about the second law of thermodynamics with respect to entropy. The entropy of the universe increases for spontaneous processes, processes which are happening spontaneously. Okay. Then the third law of thermodynamics that I told you just now, entropy at absolute zero is zero. That means entropy, the change in entropy, the symbol is delta S, and this S stands for entropy. That is a symbol for representing entropy. Okay, keep in mind. Now, free energy. There is one more overview, a concept, free energy. Free energy is a criterion for spontaneity. Free energy also means what? The useful energy which is available, the energy which is available to do some useful work, that energy is called free energy. So for a reaction to be spontaneous, the free energy must be less than zero. The free energy must be less than zero. Now now for free energy, its relationship with equilibrium constant. So these are some overview basic concepts before understanding, before jumping into the study of this chapter. Entropy, second law of thermodynamics on the basis of entropy, then third law of dynamics on the basis of entropy, and the concept of free energy. As I told you, free energy means what? Free energy means the energy which is available to do useful work. If I need to carry 1 liter of water, okay, lift 1 liter of water, I might be using energy which is more by my hand, okay, to lift that 1 liter of water. But there is certain useful energy which is used to actually lift the water. The rest of the energy is just wasted. It is just wasted in vain. Okay, so that is free energy. Now, moving further to the next slide over here, chemical thermodynamics. Here you have to remember these things over here properly. The first law of thermodynamics, the first law. This is something you have come across in class maybe 9 or 10, okay, in your physics, okay. The first law, energy and matter can neither be created nor destroyed. They can only be transformed from one form to another. The energy and matter of the universe is constant. So this is coming under the first law of thermodynamics, which states that energy and matter can be neither created nor destroyed. They can only be transformed from one form to another. Moving to the second law of thermodynamics, which you have seen on the basis of entropy. In any spontaneous process, there is always an increase in what? Entropy of the universe. That is, the entropy is increasing for a spontaneous process. Then the third law of thermodynamics, the entropy of a perfect crystal, the entropy of a perfect substance at 0 Kelvin is 0. At absolute 0 is 0. There is no molecular motion at absolute 0 or 0 Kelvin. Okay, so these are the three laws which you must keep in mind before proceeding into the study of this chapter. Now, moving further in detail with regard to the first law of thermodynamics, let us understand this first. Now, as we have seen, thermodynamics, it is the study of changes in energy and transfer of energy. Energy changes and transfer of energy that accompany all physical and chemical processes. So, here basically in this chapter, we will investigate three fundamental questions in this chapter. The first one is, will two or more substances react when they are mixed under specific conditions? So, this is the first fundamental investigation that we'll be doing in this chapter. Will two or more substances react if they are mixed, if they are allowed to come in contact under specific set of conditions? That's the first fundamental question. The second one over here is, if they react, if they happen to react under the specific conditions, what energy changes and transfers are associated with the reaction? So when they react to form the products, what energy changes? Is it absorbing energy? Is it giving out energy? Quantitative, quantitatively. So this is the second fundamental question to be asked under this first law of thermodynamics. Coming to number three, if a reaction occurs, to what extent does it occur? So how far the reaction has reached before an equilibrium state is attained. So these are the three fundamental questions which has to be investigated while learning the first law of thermodynamics in this chapter. Further, the first law of thermodynamics basic idea of importance is given over here. Number one, all chemical systems tend towards a state of minimum potential energy. Minimum, suppose uh, there is a wall over here, okay, there is a height, the wall is at a certain height. So if I place a ball over here, cricket ball, it has minimum potential energy. If I lift this ball and place it over here, it has got maximum potential energy. So here also, remember, chemical systems, they tend towards a state of minimum potential energy over here. Okay, now the second basic idea of importance is, chemical systems tend towards a state of maximum disorder. So they always tend, they are lineated, they always tend towards a state of maximum disorder which can be attained by them. Okay, so remember, the first law is indirectly also known as law of conservation of energy, where energy is neither created nor destroyed in chemical reactions and physical changes. That you must keep in mind. Okay, now moving further, we'll be learning about system. We'll be learning about system over here. Now let us take, say, if I take a beaker, okay, and I put some water over here. Okay, now I can apply over here a boundary. Okay, and around this I can have another boundary. So this beaker containing water, it becomes a system. There is a boundary over here, and this is the surroundings. Okay, these are the surroundings. So like that, let us understand system and surroundings. Okay, system, have a look at this. System is there. Okay, there is a boundary, then there is surroundings. In the case of heterogeneous, over here same thing, system is there, surrounding is there, there is a boundary, the universe, outside is universe. Okay, now different types of systems are there. First one is isolated system, where in an isolated system, exchange of energy is happening only in one direction. It is entering but not leaving. Exchange of matter is also not happening. It is entering only, it is not leaving in only one direction. So that is isolated system. We cannot allow the exchange of energy. We cannot allow the exchange of matter in the case of isolated system. Now, if you look at the closed system, in a closed system, there may be exchange of energy, but there is no exchange of matter in only one direction. And in an open system, both is possible. Exchange of energy is possible, and exchange of matter is also possible. This has been illustrated in a much better way over here. Open system, see. In an open system, both energy and matter can be exchanged within the system and the surrounding. But in a closed system, only energy possibility is there, exchange, but matter is not possible. But in an isolated system, nothing is possible. Nothing is possible. We cannot exchange energy, nor can we exchange matter in an isolated system. So these are the three important type of system and their surroundings. Now, there is one more illustration on the next slide over here. System, okay. Then there is surroundings. Outside the system, there will be a boundary, system boundary, and outside that there is surroundings, okay. And then all this comes under a universe. Okay, so open system is there, exchange of both heat and matter. Closed system, exchange of energy only. Isolated system, exchange of nothing. Okay, now let us look at properties of a system. Properties of a system is a measurable characteristic of a system that is in equilibrium. Properties may be intensive or extensive. So whenever this word properties come to your mind, always remember, properties may be intensive, the properties may be, they may be what? They may be extensive also over here. That is very, very important thing to understand over here in this case. So remember, when you're talking about the properties of a system, the two types of properties of a system are intensive properties and extensive properties. So if I ask you the question, what are the two types of properties of a system? What should be answer? What should be answer? Intensive properties and extensive properties. Did you get that? Okay, that was one question.
Yes, sir.
If I ask you the question, how many types of system are there? How many types of system are there? If I ask you the question, how many types of system are there? What will be answer? What should be answer? Just now I told you.
Two.
Not two, three. I told you three, no. One is what? Open system, one is closed system, one is isolated system. Isn't it? Open, closed, and isolated system. Okay. That is what I was talking about. Now, here, look at this. On your screen, you can see the definition that is from your textbook. Okay, we are on page number 357 of your textbook, new textbooks. A system may be defined as that specific part of the universe which is under study and possesses fixed boundaries. The boundaries may be real or imaginary. The rest of the universe, That is, the entire universe other than the system is referred to as surrounding. So that example I was talking about, if I take a liquid in a container like this, okay, this part becomes the system. It becomes what? It becomes the system, okay. And then outside there is surroundings, okay, boundary is there, boundary of the system is there, and then beyond that we have the surroundings and the universe, okay. So as I was talking, open system is there, the system which allows the exchange of both matter and energy with the surroundings is called an open system. That is open system, you must remember this concept. The next one was over here. You can have a look at this diagram over here. A, B, and C. A is for an open system. See, open system where both exchange is possible. Energy exchange is possible. Matter exchange is also possible. But the second one over here, that is B. B stands for what you call a closed system. This one is a closed system. See, a closed system. Only possibility is there, that is exchange, closed but conducting boundary is there. So there is heat exchange with the surroundings. And the third one is an isolated system where exchange of both energy and vertical matter is not possible. So this is the three types of system. So if you look at the definition of closed system, the system which allows only the exchange of energy and not of matter with the surroundings is called a closed system. Okay, so here remember, only the exchange of energy in a closed system. But if you come down and look at isolated system, the system which can exchange neither matter nor energy with the surrounding is called an isolated system. So there is exchange of nothing over here, no matter, no energy. That comes under isolated system. Now, properties of a system. As I was talking about properties of system, the two properties of a system. Now, what is this? Let us understand. Thermodynamics, this chapter deals with the behavior of a system in bulk. Bulk means macroscopic. The properties associated with the bulk behavior of matter are basically called observable properties, which can be observed, or macroscopic properties of the system. Now, the macroscopic properties of a system are of the following two types. The first one is intensive. Intensive properties. The properties which do not depend upon the quantity of matter. Remember that. The properties which do not depend where upon the quantity of matter present in the system are called intensive properties. And you must remember for the objective questions the examples. Temperature does not depend upon the quantity. Density, concentration, specific heat, viscosity, surface tension, which are all intensive properties which do not depend upon the quantity of matter present in the system. That is the first property. Okay. Now, coming to the next column over here, with regard to extensive property, the next properties, the properties which depend upon the quantity of matter present in the system are called extensive properties. Now, these extensive properties depending upon the quantity of matter. So here, examples of extensive properties are moles, number of moles, mass, volume, enthalpy, heat content, entropy, degree of disorder, free energy, energy which is available to do useful work, and these all come under the extensive properties. So I suggest you to learn table 6.1 properly. Table 6.1, you learn it properly because I see questions every year. Okay. Then let's come down to state of a system and state variables. Okay. Now, moving to our slide over there. You got the idea about intensive and extensive properties already. So we'll move to the next slide on the screen. The fundamental of thermodynamic fundamentals. These are the fundamentals which I was talking about. The intensive properties, okay, independent of the quantity of material. Extensive property dependent upon the quantity of material. Then what I am going to talk about is state properties. State is the condition of a system as described by its properties. State properties are independent of the path taken to reach specific equilibrium state. They're not dependent on the path. They're dependent on the state. Okay. Each given state, each state property has a definite value that can be assigned without knowledge of how the system arrived at the state. For example, we say 5 grams of say salt Sodium chloride kept at a temperature of 27 degrees Celsius at a pressure of, we put all the pressure, we put the temperature, we put the volume, all those. So certain conditions are there, certain macroscopic conditions are there. So this come under what we say a state. Okay. Now coming down to a better understanding state of a system. The state of a system is uniquely defined by the three state variables which are called pressure. The variables, state variables are pressure, volume, and temperature. In class 9, you have learned the gas laws, the Boyle's law, the Charles law, and the gas equation, where according to the gas equation, P1 V1 by T1 is equal to P2 V2 by T2. So this is the from the gas equation. So these come under variables which are called state variables, which define whether the system is at equilibrium or not. An equation of states of a state relates one state to another using the above state variables. So here, please learn this meaning of the word adiabatic. An adiabatic wall does not allow heat to pass. Learn this. An adiabatic wall does not allow heat energy to pass through it. Whereas a diathermal wall freely allows heat exchange. So this is one important concept over here. It's an important concept. So what is adiabatic wall? An adiabatic wall, I'm talking about a system. If there is a system, and there is a wall boundary over here, if this boundary is adiabatic, if it is adiabatic means it will not allow the heat to pass either inside or outside. Both is not possible. Whereas if the wall is a diathermal wall, it will allow the free movement of heat. Okay, so a process is a change of state. From P1 becomes P2, P1 becomes V2, T1 becomes T2. A cyclic process, in a cyclic process, the initial state is equal to final state, where P1, V1, T1 is equal to P2, V2, T2. Whereas a semi-quasi static process at each instant, small changes of pressure, small changes of volume, and small changes of temperature happen, which is called a quasi-static process. Okay. Now this was about with regard to the state of a system. Now what are the state variables? Let us see. The variables, the physical state of a system is completely described by a small number of macroscopic variables. Number of moles, you can say. Okay. Number of moles over here, volume, temperature, okay, internal energy, concentration, okay. These variables are called state variables and include pressure, volume, temperature, amount of substance, and internal energy. In a chemical reaction, it is the amounts or the concentration of the products and reactants, their phases, whether they are in gas phase or liquid phase or solid phase, and depending upon the particular temperature and particular pressure. So these come under the state variables. So whenever we define the state of a system, we always have to mention the state variables at the same time. Okay. Now, moving to the next slide, thermodynamic equilibrium. This is something we have to understand. It is important. Thermodynamic equilibrium. A system, a system is said to be at thermodynamic equilibrium when all its macroscopic properties are time independent, not dependent on the time, and remains so when the system is isolated from its surroundings. So thermodynamic equilibrium is possible when the system is isolated from its surroundings and it is, and the macroscopic properties are time independent. Here thermodynamic equilibrium in simple words is same temperature, you can say. So temperature must be same. At same temperature, bodies do exchange heat but do not gain or lose heat. Remember that. As the system is said to be in thermodynamic equilibrium if the conditions for following three equilibrium is satisfied. That means mechanical equilibrium has reached, chemical equilibrium has reached, and thermal equilibrium has reached. Then only we can call it to be in a state of thermodynamic equilibrium. Okay. Now, coming to the next slide over here, thermodynamic equilibrium. Thermal equilibrium or thermodynamic equilibrium is obtained when touching objects, when the objects in contact with each other within a system reach the same temperature. Okay, suppose there are two bodies in contact. Say this is at 7 degrees Celsius, this is at 10 degrees Celsius. So there will be transfer of heat from 7 to 10. A time will come when both of them will have the same temperature, say maybe 8 degrees Celsius for both. Okay, so that time it is said to be in a state of thermal equilibrium. When thermal equilibrium is reached, the system loses its ability to do work. Very, very important point. When thermal equilibrium is attained, the system will lose its capacity to do work. Okay, that is why we have a law which is called zeroth law of thermodynamics. If two systems are separately found to be in thermal equilibrium with a third system, the two systems are in thermal equilibrium with each other. That means they are in thermal. That means if there are two systems which have attained thermal equilibrium with a third system, the first two systems are in thermal equilibrium with each other. So this is one example given over here in the case of thermal equilibrium. Now, if I ask you the question over here, what happens? What happens when thermal equilibrium is reached? What should be answer? If I ask you the question, what happens when thermal equilibrium is reached? What will be answer? Tell me.
So there will be no further transfer of energy, heat.
Correct. There will be no further transfer energy. That means the system loses its capacity or ability to do work. Are you getting it? The system loses its ability or capacity to do work. Now here, system is said to be in a particular state when all its measurable properties have fixed values. Such a state of a system is often referred to as thermodynamic state of the system. Now, as I've told you, the common which can be measurable properties of a system are temperature or pressure or volume, concentration. Okay, when the values of such properties related to the system under consideration are fixed, the system is said to exist in a particular thermodynamic state. For example, the state of a system containing a liquid can be specified by specifying the temperature and volume. Okay. Sometimes if you obey the gas law, gas equation, then you could talk about the pressure also. Thus, the state of a system depends upon the values of its measurable or macroscopic properties. So keep in mind, measurable properties in bulk, they are always in bulk, and they are called macroscopic properties. They are called what? Macroscopic properties. Now, when any of the measurable properties change, the state finally of the system also changes. So on this basis, I have explained you state variables or state functions also. As mentioned above, the existence of a system can be defined in terms of certain factors which are measurable properties such as pressure, temperature, volume. A particular state of a system always depends upon one or more of such factors. Any change in these factors may change the state of the system. Therefore, it is necessary to specify certain factors, like we have to specify temperature, pressure, volume. So, the factors which are necessary to be specified in order to define a particular state of a system are called state variables or state functions. You have to remember this definition over here. Okay. So the explanation has been given over here. Then coming down to state variables, state functions, they possess a remarkable property. The change in the value of a state function depends only upon the initial state function, and the final state of the system, and is independent upon the manner, the path in which the change has been carried out. So that's why remember in thermodynamics we'll be dealing mostly with the state functions only or state variables, not the path function. Okay, that is very important to be noted in this case. Okay, now. Okay. Now after that, I was talking about. Can you hear me, my dear boys? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thermodynamic equilibrium and non-equilibrium. This I talked just now. Thermal equilibrium, mechanical equilibrium. A system is said to be in mechanical equilibrium when no mechanical work is done by one part of the system on any other part of the system. Then it is called to be in a state of mechanical equilibrium. Then there is chemical equilibrium when the chemical composition of the system remains uniform, homogeneous type, and does not change with time. The system is said to be in chemical equilibrium. So a system, on the other hand, it is said to be in a state of non-equilibrium when the state variables have different values in different parts of the system. So that was the equilibrium and non-equilibrium thing. Types of processes I've already told you. Isothermal process, constant temperature, delta T is 0. Adiabatic process, the process in which no heat is exchanged between the system and the surroundings. Delta Q is 0. Now there is one word over here, isobaric process. Please remember this. If you have your textbooks, mark it. The process which occurs at constant pressure, bar, there is bar over here, so constant pressure, is termed as an isobaric process. Delta P is 0. Isochoric process, the process occurring at constant volume, is known as isochoric process. For such a process, delta V is 0. And finally, we have cyclic process, when initial and final states of a system is in a process are the same. Initially same, finally state is same, then the process is called a cyclic process. So in such a process, the system undergoes various processes and returns back to its initial state. Hence, internal energy, enthalpy are functions of the state. We have delta E. Enthalpy change is 0. Okay, enthalpy change is 0 in a cyclic process. Internal energy and enthalpy change both are 0 in this case. So we will be proceeding from page 360 in the next class, and I'll be teaching the sign conventions for it also in my next class. So I would like to end my class here only for today, and in the next class I'll be talking about all these thermal, mechanical, phase equilibrium, chemical equilibrium in detail, and proceed with the concept of heat and the sign conventions for energy and work. Okay, so with this, I would like to end my class over here, but please hang on because I will just immediately record your attendance and then you may join the next class. Okay, just a second.